I was born in Albania, and after the fall of communism, I migrated to Greece.
В 2021 году я з'їхала з Білорусі у Польщу, і моє життя цілком змінилося.
I was born in Peru 50 years ago, and I've been 25 years living in Spain.
Kürdistan'ı dünyaya haykırmak demek.
আমার মূল বাড়ি বাংলাদেশে.
Je suis autrice comorienne.
وعيت في مدينة ستوكهولم تحديداً.
Writing happened to me when I was kidnapped and put in a prison.
La littérature et l'écriture ont toujours été un refuge pour moi.
A way to recover the place I had left behind.
أنا محسن محمد من مصر، أعيش بمدينة أكسفورد بالمملكة المتحدة. أتحدث اللغة العربية والإنجليزية وأكتب بهما. الكتابة تصحح مسار الرحلة وترشدني إلى الطريق. أنا لا أكتب لأعبر فقط عما حدث، بل لأغيره، لأنخرط مع الأحداث التي تصنع على المحك وأكون فاعلا فيها، لأفهم موقعي من الحياة، من أين أتيت وإلى أين أنا ذاهب ومن أنا قبل كل ذلك. إن مفاهيم مثل الرحلة والقصة والحياة متشابكة للغاية، بمعنى أن قدرتنا على السرد تؤثر على جودة حياتنا المعاشة، وبدونها يمكن للمعنى أن يضيع في الرحلة. أؤمن بأن القوة الحقيقية، وهي قوة فاعلة وتحويلية نمارسها في حياتنا اليومية، تنبع من الأدب، من فعل كتابة القصيدة. إن المسافة بين العالم ولحظة الكتابة هي عتبة انتقالية، حيث تلين الحقيقة وتصبح شيئا قابلا للتشكيل. طين طريا يشكل بالموهبة والإدراك والانتباه الشديد. أن ترى العالم من جديد بلغة الشعر هو أن تستحضر التغيير، فعل إرادي مقصود وإعادة ترتيب لما هو موجود. بالنسبة لي فإن قدرة الشعر على إعادة تشكيل الواقع ليست ادعاء نظريا، إنها حقيقة معيشة. لقد كتبت مجموعتي الشعرية مفيش رقم بيرد خلال 5 سنوات قاسية من السجون السياسية بمصر. في العزلة والاحتجاز القاسي أصبح الشعر مصدري الوحيد للنور، شكلا من أشكال التحدي ضد التجريد من الإنسانية، وطريقة لتجاوز الجدران. لم يكن الفعل الإبداعي مجرد وسيلة للبقاء، بل كان تحررا. ومن خلال الطبيعة الغامضة والمرممة للشعر استطعت أنا وآخرون محاصرون في قبضة من السلطة التعسفية أن نعيد تأكيد أجسادنا وحكاياتنا ومصائرنا.
Dobrý večer, vážení hosté měsíce autorského čtení. Dnešní večer je velice specifický a speciální a proč tomu tak je, k tomu se dostaneme. Já bych chtěl přivítat egyptského exilového básníka pana Mohsena Mohameda, který by měl být za námi. Proč tu není s námi? Proč je tu díky umění Ondřeje Kocára a jeho týmu online? K tomu se dostaneme a bohužel i to je tématem letošního festivalu. Já se jmenuji Pavel Drábek, jsem programový dramaturg exilové linie, měsíce autorského čtení a tento večer budu moderovat a překládat. So, good evening, hello Mohsen. Can you say something so that we know that the connection between worlds exists?
Hello, Dr. Bevel. Can you hear me?
I'll ask the audience. Je slyšet?
Hello, everyone.
Yes, yes,
Can you hear?
yes. People say it. Yes, we can hear you. Wonderful. So, Mohsen, welcome to the electronic version of Brno. Vítejte do digitální verze Brna. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bafil, and thank you everyone for coming tonight. It's a pleasure to meet you all, and I wish I've attended in person, but unfortunately I didn't get my visa, so I'm still glad that we get to meet online. Thank you so much, Bafil, and all the organizers for making this happen. It's a pleasure. I will be reading a paper called A Stretch of Time, a story of resistance, identity, and exile. I am actually not like a scholar in exile, but I will try to reflect on my personal experience and as what happened, the trajectory of my life, as what happened, what led me to this very moment of exile. Mm-hmm. I think prison itself is an exile, so I focus more on the exile, on the prison, and I would love to also before I go to read the exile, I would like to the paper. I would like to read part of my definition on exile.
Okay. Let me translate first a little bit and then we'll continue. Okay? Takže dobrý večer, díky mnohokrát, že tady mohu být aspoň takto a rád bych poděkoval Věře a dalším organizátorům festivalu za to, že jsem se mohl takto účastnit. Omlouvám se, že tady nemohu být osobně, protože jsem nedostal víza. Vízum k návštěvě, k tomu se ještě dostaneme. To, co dnes budu číst, tak je text, který obsahuje básně, ale také takovou reflexi o cestě, jak jsem se dostal k psaní básní a vůbec o cestě k tomu, jak jsem se dostal až sem. Vězení ostatně samo o sobě je formou exilu a i nad tím bych se rád zamyslel. And now we lost your sound.
My definition of exile is that the double-edged reality of being fated to live in a society fundamentally different from the one in which you're rooted. This entails a twofold condition: being displaced from your country of origin, an exile in itself, and not being organically integrated into the society you've entered. This double articulation of exile shapes the emotional landscape of those who live in it.
Takže má definice exilu je ta, že člověk v exilu se ocitá v zemi, zdonucení v zemi, která je od základu fundamentálně odlišná od země, ve které žije. Jsou to lidé, kteří jsou vykořenění, přemístění a jsou v exilu a nejsou zároveň, to je druhá podmínka, nejsou zároveň organicky včleněni do země, do kultury, ve které žijou. A to nejen osobně, ale i emocionálně.
Yeah. Perfect. Now I will read the paper, A Stretch of Time, a story of resistance, identity, exile, time and imprisonment.
Tak a teď přečtu text, který by měl se objevit záhy za námi. Ondro Kocáre, jestli prosím můžeš přepnout. Ano, jmenuje se časový úsek, příběh odporu a identity a exilu, čas a uvěznění. And you're ready to go.
I would like to read the first poem in Arabic as it's written in Arabic. So that I began the presentation with a poem. I would like to read it in Arabic. which is دخل عنده 20 سنة، خرج عنده 20 سنة، تسألني طيب قضى كام في المعتقل؟ يا عمر اتسجن، دخل عنده 20 سنة، خرج عنده 20 سنة، وعنده أفكار جديدة عن الزمن. I was only 15 when the Egyptian revolution erupted in January 2011. Growing up in a quiet village in the Mansoura region, far from the upheaval in Cairo, politics felt distant. When it was time for university, I moved to the city to study at the Faculty of Commerce. It was 2014, a few months after the July 2013 coup. I was eager, like any student, to study, to make friends, to imagine a future. But one day, I went to the university and never returned home. I ended up in Egypt's political prison. After the 12-13 coup, Egypt descended into chaos. The military, led by Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, ousted the country's first democratically elected president, Mohamed Morsi, sparking protests across the country, including on university campuses. The regime responded with mass arrests and brutal crackdowns, culminating in the massacres of Rabaa and Adawiya squares. By the end of 2013, the Muslim Brotherhood had been declared a terrorist organization, a label weaponized to justify the imprisonment of thousands, guilty or not. On March 13, 2014, midway through my first year, I arrived at campus to find police patrolling the grounds, making arbitrary arrests. Students were targeted based on appearance or behavior, having a beard, wearing religious attire, filming, or simply doing nothing. A girl was being beaten by men in civilian clothes. Instinctively, I began filming. When violence escalated, I intervened to stop the assault. That was all it took. Within moments, I was surrounded by police, thrown into a van, and disappeared into the state's machinery. I naively believed in the legal system, that reason and justice would prevail, and I would be released any day. But time is deceptive and slippery. The day didn't pass. They stretched. The courts, like all state institutions, were complicit in the regime's coup and repression. I spent 5 years in prison, not knowing how this year passed. Also, part of the presentation is a short poem called A Stretch of Time. I would like to read it in Arabic, while I know that it will be translated into Czech. وبنعمل ايه في السجن غير بنعد ثم نعد ثم نعد ثم نعد، وفي كل يوم فيه حتة حديد تتهد من السلك ده وما تتبنيش من تاني. آخر حديدة شفتها بتسقط من السور الحديد كانت قبيل خروجي بثواني. In the cell, everything felt strange. The older prisoners seemed accustomed to a life governed by peculiar and fearsome rules. More unsettling than their words or action was the way they normalized the reality, the ritual of survival, the unspoken and gestural ways of interaction, and the language they used to speak to one another. The walls told their own stories, inscribed with names, dates, wishes, and fragments of love letters, some scrawled in white pulp, other in blood. They formed an anthology of prison life, a record of time stretched unbearably thin. I began to read the inscription: a son's aching love for his absent mother, a proverb hinting at betrayal, a desperate invocation, a fading dream, a handprint stamped in blood. The weight of years embedded in the scrawled words made the wall feel less like barriers and more like silent witnesses to something profoundly unnatural. Months later, I added my name to a list of 12 students arrested in the same case. Years later, after my release, a friend who spent a night in that cell told me, your names are still there. Survival through books. Everyone in prison finds a way to resist. Mine was through reading. Books were my third eye, a window into a world that prison walls couldn't contain. In those stark conditions, I learned that survival depends on our ability to construct new worlds within our minds, a world woven from the threads of knowledge and imagination. In the arbitrary reality where justice was completely suspended, I deeply connected with Kafka's narratives, where the inner life flourishes amidst outer despair. The nightmarish reality of his story mirrored the quality of prison and the surreal way I ended up in it. I found solace in Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, where he wrote that in prison a day feels longer than a week. I knew exactly what he meant. I became obsessed with time, how it stretched and distorted in captivity. I asked my family to bring me Thomas Mann's The Magic Mountain, which deepened my understanding of time's malleability in unnatural circumstances. Getting books into Egyptian prisons was a long saga of its own, the heroine of which was my mother, who would cut the cover of a banned book and replace it with another to deceive the guards. That's how I was able to read Naomi Klein's The Chalk Doctrine, smuggled under the false cover of a religious book titled The Interpretation of the Quran. The official prison library was stocked with the state propaganda, so we prisoners created a moving library, a list of books in circulation between cells managed by inmates who formed a quiet literary community. In the cell, whenever I felt close to completely losing my sense of actual time, I would watch the growth cycle of my hair and nails, a physical reminder that there are still natural things exist in this world. My hair became another act of defiance, an act of resistance, not only against the prison rules of uniformity that strips individuals from uniqueness by cutting their hair, but also against prison time itself. For 2 years, I resisted the forced haircut, holding on to this small form of autonomy. Then one day, they dragged me to solitary confinement and shaved my head. In that lonely place, it was only when I ran my hand over my bare scalp and realized that my hair was gone, I started to cry. Power within walls. One day, I returned from court, burdened by the weight of unjust sentence, 5 years of imprisonment. It was just before sunset when I stepped into the prison yard in Mansoura. Our cell had no bathroom, so I headed to the communal toilets to wash away the residue of a long punishing day. Just then, the inmate trustee of the ward, a leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, spotted us and barked, "Your time is over, return to your cells." We explained that we had just come from court and we had been sentenced, hoping for even a trace of sympathy. But sympathy was a luxury not extended to those ideologically different from him. And moved by our fatigue and the heaviness of the day, he breathed us further. Authority, amplified by the complex power dynamics that govern even the inner circles of the prison. Later, he reported us for disobedience, but added a strange personal accusation that I had written obscene words on the wall next to my bed. It was Ramadan. When the officer asked him to state the words, he refused, saying, "I can't, sir, I'm fasting." The officer insisted. He turned to me and said, "Okay, Mohsen, you say the words." It was a moment steeped in absurdity. The accusation was now entangled with religion, as if my supposed irreverence was not just criminal, but sacrilegious. I could feel the implication that I wasn't fasting, that I didn't belong morally or spiritually. Irritated by this presumption, I responded, "I'm also fasting, sir." Religion, authority, politics, and poetry collided in a grotesque farce of control. I recited the word in question and explained that they were in fact lines from a poem by the renowned nationalist Egyptian poet Naguib Surur. It didn't matter. I was sent to solitary confinement with the rest of the group. We spent our first days after sentencing in isolation, a grim initiation into a prison where power was exercised not only by the state, but also by fiction within. Punishment came not only from guards, but from fellow political prisoners whose ambitions extended far beyond their own confinement. Despite everything, I completed my economics degree and wrote No One Is on the Line, a collection of poems born from the collective pain and resilience of prison life. In a Kafkaesque twist, the same regime that jailed me awarded my book at the Cairo Book Fair. A government newspaper even interviewed me when they asked the theme of the book. I couldn't say prison, that was still legal. Later, my photo appeared in a national paper. I thought only of the prisoners I left behind. Papers are the only ones allowed in prison. Years later, one of them called me. I cut your photo and taped it into my notebook. I showed it to everyone, new inmates as well as old friends. Exile and prison narrative bridge the divides. After my release, I studied philosophy at the Cairo University, drawn to Paul Roker's idea of narrative identity, that we become who we are by telling our stories. But what happens when that narrative is shattered? What happens when home becomes unreachable? In 2021, I left Egypt for the UK. I left behind not geography, but a way of existing. Not just geography, but a way of existing. At Oxford, I immersed myself in English literature. Memorizing words wasn't enough to feel the naturalness of language, to feel that you belong to this culture. I needed to inhabit them, to imprint part of myself into each new word I learned. As John Berger wrote, language perhaps is the only human home that cannot be hostile to men. And yet, even as I try to carve out a home in this new tongue, I remain guest in a culture shaped by other histories and other patterns of lifestyle. Memory museums. Homes of exile are like memory museums. As Svetlana Boym wrote, not static collections, but places of interaction. I see the memory in food, scents, and the shape of daily domestic rituals. Sometimes I will sit in a restaurant in Britain and taste a dish of moussaka, kebba, or fattoush. At that moment, a sense of transportation of the self occurs, not a place, not a version of ourselves, but not a version of ourselves still connected to where we came from. This has inspired me to work on a project on Syrian refugees in the UK after the civil war, focusing on how food and hospitality work as mediums of memory and identity preservation. These restaurants in Britain serve as space where economic success intertwines cultural intimacy, allowing refugees to reimagine their pasts and futures. This project analyzed how food culture evolves alongside political transformations, transitioning from a survival tool to a medium of collective memory.
Thank you very much for the reading, Mohsen. And I have a few questions. So my first question is about poetry in prison. You mentioned in your book, No One Is on the Line, here, that you started writing poetry about 2 years before you got to prison, but really the first poems happened in prison itself. Could you tell us about the process of writing poems in prison? Tady díky mnohokrát za čtení a já bych se rád zeptal první otázku, a ta se týká poezie ve vězení. V úvodu ke své knize Nikdo to nezvedá říkáte, že jste začal psát básně už 2 roky před svým zatčením, ale samotné psaní poezie začalo, tedy ty poezie vlastní začala až ve vězení. Mohl byste nám to nějak přiblížit a vysvětlit?
Thank you so much. I think there's something about prison that actually supports and invoke the capacity for creating a poem or a meaning in general. Like there's a space, there's a plenty of like time, and there is a space, and also your body in this space is more grounded and less distracted. Your imagination is less distracted by any circumstances in the life or after in the life outside. So I think I began to look for a meaning, and poetry was calling me. I had some attempts before I was incarcerated, and then when I went to the prison, there was sadness. There's like profound sense of sadness and grief, and it was a very natural response from my imagination, from myself or my body to respond in this way of resistance or just trying to detach myself from these harsh circumstances. So I think language offered me the space to fly outside of the window, to just contemplate on things and understand relations between things, between subjects and objects, between the universe, between dynamics of power, why I'm here. So I think language itself gave me offered me this space to transcend my bad circumstances at that moment, and then I took it and I developed it.
Takže zvláštním způsobem vězení jako samotné nějak podporuje naši kapacitu, tedy schopnost psát básně, protože máte na to prostor, máte na to čas a tělo je nějak mnohem zakotvenější, uzemněnější a i představivost, imaginace je mnohem méně vyrušována. Takže jsem to využil vlastně toho času na hledání významu. Navíc ve vězení jsem prožíval hluboký smutek a žal. A poezie se tedy stala jakousi přirozenou odpovědí nebo reakcí, jak se zároveň od tohoto pocitu, od této situace odpoutat a soustředit se na místo, soustředit se na věci a potom vztahy mezi věcmi, ať už jsou to objekty, předměty našeho života, ale právě se na ně zaměřit, tedy vůbec na dynamiku toho, jak jednotlivé věci a jednotlivé místa a objekty na sebe navazují. A jazyk jako takový mě právě umožnil nebo dal ten prostor, který dokázal překročit nebo přesáhnout meze těch okolností, ve kterých jsem se ve vězení nacházel. Okay? Thank you very much. So technically, I know that in your introduction you say about writing on paper, but also during one of the transports that you were writing also not on paper because there was no paper. In the extract that you read, you are also referring to inscriptions on the walls. So how did you write technically? What was it? How did you collect it? Tedy ptám se, ve svém úvodu se zmiňujete o tom, tedy co jste psal, jakým způsobem jste psal, na co jste psal. Ve svém úvodu se zmiňujete o tom, že jste psal tužkou a na papír, ale že byly okamžiky, kdy tužka a papír nebyly k dispozici, takže bylo potřeba psát na něco jiného. I v ukázce, kterou jste nám četl, tak se zmiňujete o nápisech naškrábaných na zdech cely. Tedy technicky, jak to probíhalo, to psaní?
Thank you very much, Pavel. I would love to answer the question, but I also would like to refer to the fact that prison is not a one fixed experience or category of experience. It's varied from space to another, a place to another, from time to time. It depends on the circumstances of the police, and also what is happening in the streets and in the political scenes outside. This also reflects inside, and so it opens ways for negotiation, for giving us more material or taking off. So it was all like direct dynamic outside, but also a prison is different from the other. So I've been to different ones. Once had like plenty of books, plenty of papers and pens, and some are not. And also, if I'm in a solitary confinement, I remember this moment actually when I was inside the military, the solitary cell, and there was no light even. And I wrote, my brain was so awoke to the point that I wrote the poem. It's like inscribed in my brain, and I never wrote it. I pinned it down, and still until now I can remember it and I can recite it, but I haven't published it anywhere because it's more carnal kind of a poem that is that it used the language to refuse that. The circumstances and the experience that happened in this solitary confinement. So it was like absurd kind of like absurd with a profound meaning about the situation that makes created the poem, and the poem was never recited or never written, pinned down in paper. So I wrote poems on like transportations. I was transported into 6 different prisons. So and this takes time normally when we are transported into a prison. It takes time to load us and unload us and the way itself. So that was like kind of irritation that happens to the self when you see the street and see the freedom. You see people walking down the street. That actually a moment that irritate you to and invoke your poetry to and the meaning inside you. As I have like a long relation with freedom, like that my relation with freedom while I'm prevented from it is kind of intensified and it's a great relation. Like it's unlike my relation to freedom outside. Like I have a constant relation with freedom that I'm always thinking of it. I'm always conjuring it. I'm like dreaming of it. So I'm exaggerating freedom more than I am outside. So when I see people walking down the streets, this itself is a huge act of in itself. So that was a reason for that, and then I wrote it on my hand, and there are other poems that were written in the cells, in the normal cells, and other poems that were written in the solitary.
Takže musím říct, že vězení není jednotná zkušenost, že není nic takového, že by to bylo jedno vězení. Samozřejmě záleží na tom, jak je dozor, jaký jsou dozorci, co se děje na policii, co se děje i v ulicích a co se děje vůbec venku za zdmi vězení, a to se samozřejmě potom odráží na tom, co se děje uvnitř. A to také umožňuje různé jako dohody a výměny a směny a jednání. A všechna ta vězení jsou jiná. V některých je množství knih, v některých vůbec žádné knihy nejsou. Když jsem byl třeba na samotce, tak tam nebylo ani světlo. Takže v takových situacích samozřejmě člověk nemůže ani psát, ale já jsem v takových situacích na samotce si napsal báseň, kterou jsem si vryl do paměti. A je to báseň, kterou já jsem ještě nikdy nevydal, nikde nevyšla a mám je zkrátka pouze ve své hlavě a je tam uložena. A je to báseň, která je mnohem taková tělesnější, která je mnohem smyslovější a právě jazyk používám k tomu, abych se vrátil do svého těla a s tím tělem navázal vazbu. Ta situace je samozřejmě naprosto absurdní, ale v této básni já jsem se snažil prostě uchopit vlastně ducha, nějakého absolutní ducha básně samotné. Jinak já jsem prošel 6 vězeními a jedno z těch zajímavých okamžiků nebo důležitých okamžiků jsou transporty mezi jednotlivými vězeními, které rozhodně netrvají krátce a trvají dlouhou dobu, než na vás naloží a než nás vyloží. A zároveň tím člověk pozoruje, co se děje na ulicích, co se děje venku. A já jsem měl a pěstoval jsem si během svého uvěznění vztah se svobodou. A během těch transportů, těch přesunů, ale i v poezii samotné se snažím ten vztah se svobodou prohlubovat, sním o ní, mnohdy je přeháním. A právě to, že když vidím lidi kolem chodit po ulicích, tak se snažím se do toho promítat a ten svůj vlastní vztah se svobodou umocňovat. A potom na závěr říkal o tom, že během transportu samozřejmě neměl papír, takže jednu báseň si nepsal na ruku, v jiném vězení psal i na zdi samotné. Okay, thank you very much. I have more questions because you mentioned in the introduction that poems in prison, in Egyptian prisons, circulate, that they are common, that when you arrived in one prison, your poems were already known there. So tell us something about the poetic culture in prisons. Tedy já bych se rád zeptal ještě na poezii ve vězení, ve egyptských vězeních. Ve svém úvodu se zmiňujete o tom, že poezie hraje nesmírně důležitou roli ve vězních samotných, protože cirkuluje mezi lidmi. A vy se i zmiňujete o tom, že když jste byl přesunut do jednoho z vězení, tak dokonce tam vaše básně už znali. Tedy mohli byste nám něco říct o cirkulaci poezie v egyptských vězeních?
Thank you so much, Pavel, for the question and for the translation. I actually have a friend who's like a historian and he used to say that in the Middle East, in this like part of a corner of the world, literature is made either in prisons or in the bar, the pub culture in Egypt and the Arab world, because it's gone a long history of incarceration and imprisonment, and it has also this kind of togetherness and this profound feeling of being together. So in my experience, I see that there is like a network of the transportation. Like we know like there are thousands of our generation are incarcerated. Of course, we don't know each other, but if we go to a prison, one of these prisons, we know people who know other people. So it's like a network. And mostly students are transported to attend university exams in other universities, which in their cities, if they're serving their sentences in a distant prison from their hometown. They travel, and then they meet people, and then they bring the culture, this poetry culture with them. It's because, again, poetry itself is a big characteristics of the prison. Even the criminals who are in wards next to us, they also create their own kind of poetry, which is it's very interesting, but it's different from the one we write, as in like rhymes, as in like resistance. They resist in their own way. They can depict, as I read from my presentation, things that hints at betrayal, things that to depict their own life, their own dreams, and they recite it on the iron mesh. So every night, as we do. So it's a valid form of resistance and of poetry and of expression. I think this is the part about the culture, the poetry culture in prison. But I went once to an unexpected prison that I didn't know that I will go there, and I stayed for a few days, and I saw someone reciting a poem in the cell, and I was surprised that this poem I wrote it 1 year ago in another prison called Wadi Nasrun in the desert. So yeah, I was surprised. And also, I used to recite poetry, and we in a cell used to recite poetry of other poets who are also distant and who are outside in the freedom. So, so yeah, that was really meaningful to me to hear this, and that was even better than any award that I have received for this book.
Mám jen přítele, historik, a ten tvrdí, že na Blízkém východě, tedy v našem okruhu světa, literatura vzniká na 2 místech, a to je ve vězeních a v barech, tedy v hospodách. A my máme samozřejmě velice dlouhou historii, velice dlouhé dějiny věznění a uvěznění. A k tomu tedy poezie patří, ale součástí té poezie je i pospolitost, která právě v obou těch prostředích takto vzniká. Ta komunita vězeňská vytváří i síť, takový network. Je to generace většinou studentů, často, kteří jsou uvěznění. A jak to cirkuluje například tak, když studenti, kteří jsou ve vězení, musí dělat zkoušky, tak jsou převážení na univerzity, kde ty zkoušky mohou dělat, no a setkávají se s jinými a takto básně cirkulují. Poezie jako taková hraje důležitou roli ve vězeních, a to nejen mezi politickými vězněmi, ale i běžnými vlastně kriminálními živly, kteří mají také svou poezii, která je jiná, není rýmovaná, je to jiný typ odporu, vzdoru. Také vlastně vzdorují a odporují svým způsobem. Poezie je recitována na dvorcích a v celách, a tak se mi jednou stalo, že když jsem se přesunul na několik dní do jiného vězení z vězení Wadi Nasrun, který je v poušti, tak tam někdo na cele recitoval mou báseň, kterou já jsem právě zhruba o rok dříve napsal. A to pro mě bylo velice jako významné, velice povzbudivé jako nástroj vůbec sounáležitosti. You mentioned also the prison university, that there were many, not only students, but also professors who were incarcerated, who offered lectures. Could you tell us about that kind of subculture? Tedy vy se zmiňujete i také o jakési vězeňské univerzitě, tedy že ve vězení sedí nejen studenti, ale také jsou zatčení profesoři a vyučující, kteří tam provozují jakousi takovou podzemní univerzitu. Mohl byste nám něco říct o tom?
Great, thanks so much. I think the majority of the prisoners, the political prisoners since 2013 until even today, at this moment, are Muslim Brotherhood, and those are very successful in building careers and being smart educationally and getting into the top of the society. So there was like, and when that coup happened in 2013, all of the professors that were explicitly supporting Mohamed Morsi and were also having taken a political direction, they were all imprisoned. So they normally stayed with us. So we had students from Muslim Brotherhood, which is a majority. We have like professors and highly renowned doctors and professors, not only in Egypt but also internationally. And those people, although we're like ideologically different from me and from the category of the people who are who have the same affiliation as I do, I built kind of a relationship with them, and based on respect and understanding and intellectual discussions, and I learned a lot from them. So there was every cell there was like a class of a subject, and I would happily go to attend this class as long as it's not indoctrinating and spreading out their ideology. So I was careful about this point specifically, but I was really eager to learn from them.
Takže ve vězení sedí především stoupenci muslimského bratrstva, a to je velice vlastně vzdělané a intelektuální prostředí, které zároveň tvoří jádro společnosti, a jiní stoupenci Hamada Morsie. A tam jsou tedy nejen studenti, ale i profesoři a vysokoškolští vzdělaní učitelé a doktoři, nejen z Egypta, ale i z jiných zemí. A ačkoliv třeba já se s nimi třeba ideologicky úplně nezhodnu, nebo jsou na jiné straně než já, tak jsme vytvořili jakýsi vzájemně se respektující vztah, a když to bylo umožňováno, tak jsem navštěvoval hodiny a samozřejmě dbal jsem o to, abych nešířil, nebo abychom nešířili, dbali jsme o to, abychom nešířili tu ideologii, aby nás to dále neohrožovalo, ale bylo to součástí právě kultury, ve které jsme se ocitali. I'm aware of time, so probably we will not be able to go through all the questions that I had prepared. But I would like to ask you about inspirations for your writing and for your thinking, because in your extract you refer not only to poetry but also to Thomas Mann, you refer to Kafka, and you also refer to Viktor Frankl, who lived in Vienna, but his family came from Pohořelice, which is about 40 kilometers south of Brno. So tell us about the inspiration and the intellectual network that became part of your poetic world. Tady ptám se na to, Vzhledem k tomu, že nemáme už mnoho času a nedostaneme se ke všem otázkám, které jsme si s Mohsenem předem připravili, tak bych se rád zeptal na inspirace. A nejen inspirace v egyptské poezii, ale také v inspirace zahraniční. V té ukázce zmiňujete Thomase Manna, France Kafku, ale také Viktora Frankla, který sice byl z Vídně, ale jeho rodina pocházela tady z Pohořelic na jih od Brna. Tedy mohl byste nám říct něco o té síti, intelektuální síti, která utvářela váš básnický svět?
Thank you very much. One good thing about poetry, I think, in my opinion, is that it's not classified. It's classified, of course, but it's not specialized. Like there is no poetry doesn't know a specialization. So you could really be inspired by microscopic things that happens in nature, like a sparrow, worm that goes up to the tree. You can be inspired from like something in the universal galaxy. You could focus on everything and you can read everything. And poetry, to keep going in poetry, you have always to learn about the meaning, no matter where is this meaning, in which field, and by whom. So this is a good thing about poetry, and it kind of widened my brain and widened my capacity to embrace more knowledge and to engage with it profoundly and to have a relationship, like a personal relation with what I read. So that what made me focus on like spreading my being eager to read more about Thomas Mann, and by the way, I'm working on Thomas Mann's project, on a project in Thomas Mann this August with a London organization called Bold Tendency. But yeah, I read Viktor Frankl while in prison because I was really, the title was very interesting for me because this is what I am thinking of. And also I heard that he was incarcerated for 5 years in Auschwitz, and he wrote this book in there inside the camps. So that was really helpful for me to understand my own experience. So I used to read Thomas Mann, Viktor Frankl, and all of them to understand my location and my positionality within the cell that I was in, and also in the world, because in prison or something that is being cultivated in me is that I kind of like readdress. When I was in prison, I tried to readdress my relation to the world. What is this world? And I'm seeing it here from a different perspective, which is absolutely different from the one I used to. So there was like another dimension that I see the world from. And then this gives me like multiplicity of the way I think about things and about the guaranteed normal things, like my relation to my family, like my friends, like. So through this lens, I saw the world differently, and those books have helped me to understand more and to be more grounded and inspire me to continue.
Tedy moje poezie není specializovaná, není zvláštní, ale naopak, a takže se inspiruje nejen tradicí, ze které vychází, ale nachází inspirace všude, ať jsou to nejdrobnější věci, mikroskopické, věci, které vidíme v každodenním životě, anebo naopak věci největší, galaktického rozměru. Ale zároveň pokračují v jakési staré škole, která se zaměřuje na hledání významu nebo obmýšlení toho, co věci znamenají. A tedy když píšu poezii, tak se snažím zapracovávat, zabudovávat tam co nejvíce znalostí a co nejvíce poznání bez ohledu na to, odkud to pochází. Takže tím si vytvářím jakýsi osobní vztah se vším, co čtu, a díky tomu mohu vlastně nově nahlédnout to, co se děje kolem mě. Pokud jde o Thomase Manna, tak tím se zabývám v projektu, který pro jednu organizaci teď na podzim budu realizovat. Viktor Frankl, ten mě oslovil například i kvůli tomu, že, jak jsem se dočetl, tak strávil 5 roků v Osvětimi jako vězeň nacistického režimu a ve své knize Člověk hledající význam se právě zabývá podobnou zkušeností jako já. Takže ten čtení Frankla mě umožnilo nově nastavit a podívat se na svůj vlastní vztah ke světu, ale v světu, ať už je to třeba rodina nebo mý přátelé, a nahlédnout je skrze tento pohled, aby tím člověk mohl být mnohem více upevněný, ukotvený, uzemněný ve svém vlastním světě. I have one final question, and before we open the questions to the floor to the audience, tady ještě jedna otázka, než předáme slovo do publika, and that is, we have been planning to have you here physically, and we have been hoping until very, very long, until yesterday, and the Czech embassy in London, for reasons that are totally inexplicable, refused to give you visa. And we know that you have a Czech wife, but also 2 of the ministers, the Minister of Culture, the Minister of Exterior, the Foreign Affairs, interpolated, 2 of the senators interpolated, and nobody made any change, unfortunately, with the officials at the Czech embassy. Why do you think that happened? Okay? Tedy my jsme to doufali, že budete tady s námi osobně, fyzicky, až do poslední chvíle, tedy až do včerejška, a několik měsíců se snažíme pro vás získat víza a nechápeme vlastně ty důvody, proč vám vízum bylo zamítnutou, jsou pro nás nepochopitelné i přes interpelace a zásahy ministra kultury a ministra zahraničních věcí a 2 senátorů. Jak vy to vysvětlujete? Proč si myslíte, co se tam stalo? Proč tady nemůžete být s námi?
Thank you, Pavel. It's an irony, it's irony. I really didn't expect this, as everyone didn't expect it, and I had a visa, a Czech visa in 2023, because me and my partner went to we were going to France at the time, and then we had the visa from there. And they gave us the visa. It was all fine. But then we didn't use the Czech. We didn't enter Czech because we went to France for a week and returned it. So when they saw that I didn't enter Czech, they were angry. They said, "You had a visa with us before and you didn't use it. You went to France instead." So it felt as something personal, like an organization or an institution as the embassy in the interview is like attacking me personally for not like descending to the individual. It's like and focusing on this really minor details of not. And I told them that I didn't know that I have to use it, and you cannot reject my application because I had a previous visa and I didn't use it. So that was one of the reasons, as I believe, and the other reason that I booked my flight back from France, and they told me you're staying in France the most time, and you have to apply to the France visa, to the French embassy. I told them it's like the Czech cultural institution that has invited me, and I will attend the event, the festival event, and I've been working on like understanding and studying, learning about Czech literature and reading it, but they didn't actually help me out with this. It's kind of like, it seems like it's a personal like kind of dispute.
Domnívám se, že vlastně je to ironické a naprosto nečekané a domnívám se, že v tom jsou nějaké osobní záležitosti. Já jsem měl víza, česká víza, která byla platná až do nedávna, kdy jsem s partnerkou vlastně požádal Českou republiku a mimochodem to můj dodatek, partnerka je Češka, tak jsme požádali o víza a nejeli jsme ale do České republiky, ale navštívili jsme Francii a vrátili jsme z Francie a ve chvíli, když jsem požádal Českou ambasádu o víza, abych mohl přijet na měsíc autorského čtení, tak oni řekli, ale vy jste měl víza a místo toho, abyste navštívil Českou republiku, tak jste navštívil Francii. Což samozřejmě nikdo netušil, že může být důvodem pro neudělení víz a to vlastně netušil vůbec nikdo a je to jako najednou to začalo být na úrovni osobní, že zkrátka používám, jako kdybych používal víza k nějakému jinému účelu. To zkomplikovala ještě ta situace, že jsem zpáteční letenku měl přes Francii, z České republiky přes Francii, takže ambasáda řekla, vy víc času strávíte ve Francii než v České republice. A vlastně dokládání o tom, že ano, jsem tady na pozvání festivalu a jsem tady kvůli tomu, abych budoval nějaký vztah s českou literaturou, kterou zároveň studuju, tam už vlastně nehrálo žádnou roli. Takže paradox je ten, že tam najednou zahrála spíše nějaká osobní řevnivost. A jak já podotýkám, ani ministerské a senátorské interpelace tomu nepomohly. To budíš prosím omluvou. Let this be a kind of apology why Mohsen Mohamed cannot be here with us tonight. And I have to say that unfortunately this is also a sad part of what this festival is about, that exile never comes with fully regained freedom, but it seems that there is always some kind of irony and lack of, as you said, organic belonging. Tedy budíš to prosím také tohle omluvou, že za to, že Mohsen Mohamed tady dnes večer nemůže být s námi, ačkoliv jsme o to stáli, ale bohužel i to je takovou ironickou součástí festivalu, který je v exilu věnován, že když už jste v exilu, jak říká náš zítřejší autor, je jednou exilant, na věky exulant, když jste v exilu, tak není vám dána do té míry svoboda pohybu jako v jiném případě. Takže bohužel i taková situace se tady nestala, takže děkujeme za pochopení. Yes. Time for questions from the floor, tedy otázky z publika.
Dobrý večer, děkuji za vaše čtení a zároveň za to, že jste tady s námi takto virtuálně. Chtěl bych se zeptat, v jakém spojení jste s Egyptem, s Káhirou, tak jenom virtuálně, anebo jezdíte, lítáte tam, ovlivňujete umělecky nebo jinak situaci ve své domovině?
Thank you very much for being here with us, at least virtually, at least digitally. I would like to ask you about your continuing connection with Egypt. Do you travel back to Egypt? Do you keep influencing what is going on in Egypt, either culturally, in a literary way, or politically? Do you follow what's going on? Can you come back?
Thank you very much for the question. That's really a really interesting question. I unfortunately I don't go back to Egypt since I left in November 2021, and it's a big risk to go back because I might face the fate of disappearance, incarceration, or any other arbitrary any other arbitrary black power that they can practice on me. I keep Egypt is part of my identity, and it's deep in my core. I cannot relinquish or forsake this kind of relation with it. Although I'm aware that I am the world is my oyster, as they say, the English say, and also there is other culture that are open to me to explore and to extend myself and other languages. So I'm in a place where I am really proud of my Egyptian heritage and the characteristic of Egypt that gave to me, and that always helped me to understand myself and to navigate through life as a character and the Egyptian spirit. But I'm also interestingly juxtaposing this with other culture. It's like I do not grave what I lost, but I interrogate also what remains from the Egyptian culture and the Egyptian heritage, and also what remains from my relation to my homeland. So I'm interrogating it in a way that is more as a subject and a stance, and also as a personal affiliation to it. So by juxtaposition and between two cultures or two societies or two different ways of life, I am more capable of understanding why those things are in this very specific form, why Arab people are different from the Western world, and why it's hard to bridge the gulf or the gap between them. Why? What are the points? What are the fictional imagination of things that they think different? What are the ethos and the moral expectation between one another? So I found like this have like great ethos and great kind of morality, and those are also have like great other kind of, but it's different. So I am in this space in between two cultures, which I think it's a creative space and it's really enriching.
Tak bohužel od listopadu 2021, kdy jsem z Egypta odcestoval, jsem se tam nevrátil a nemůžu se tam vrátit, protože bych riskoval to, že bych byl zmizen, nebo že bych se stal obětí nějaké další svévolné moci, ale egyptská identita je pořád mou součástí a to já se samozřejmě nebudu a nemohu ani zbavovat. Jak říkají, teď žiju v zemi, kde jsem hrdý na to, odkud pocházím a mnoho mě to umožňuje, ale zároveň, ačkoliv se říká, jak se říká anglicky, world is my oyster, tedy svět vám do kořán, svět vám stojí do kořán, tak zároveň si uvědomuji, jaká s tím jdou omezení. Jsem vlastně hrdý na to, odkud pocházím, na svou vlastní kulturu, ale zároveň žiju už kulturu jinou a pořád se musím ptát, co z té mé původní kultury, z toho původního odkazu kulturního ve mně zůstává a zabývám se tím a hloubám nad tím, protože ta juxtapozice, to blízké spojení nebo konfrontace těch dvou kultur hraje důležitou roli. A ptám se vlastně, co ty kultury, tedy tu západní a tu arabskou nebo egyptskou rozděluje, proč je třeba arabská kultura do té míry odlišná, co v lidské představivosti tyto bariéry vytváří nebo ty rozdíly. A právě přemýšlení o těchto rozdílech je vytváří jakýsi prostor mezi těmi dvěma kulturami, které mě umožňují vlastně vytvářet, hledat to, co v tomto světě jsem. Děkuji moc krát. And there's one more question.
Já bych se chtěl zeptat na to, jestli se vám daří zařadit se zpátky do civilního života, protože 5 let strávit ve vězení asi je zapsání hluboko v podvědomí, z kterého to vychází znovu zase zpátky do vězení a do snů a do normálního života. A tak se chci zeptat, jak se vám daří se vrátit zpět.
I would like to ask you about how you cope, how you manage to return to civilian life, because spending 5 years in prison must be a challenge and must be difficult, because it does, I presume, enter dreams and enters your life, enters your everyday reality. So how do you cope? How do you manage transitioning from the incarcerated life to the life of freedom?
Great question. Thank you very much. I think the going out of prison is like a gradual kind of process. It's not immediate. Like I remember coming out of the prison was a huge, immense feeling that every ounce of my sense and sensational life was like kind of irritated. I was encounter extreme happiness that again, freedom itself was actually charged with a meaning that I put into it. It's not the freedom itself. It's not the fact that I'm walking outside the world. And this is a not normal relation. It's because I came out of prison with dreaming of this moment, and this moment simply happened. Like I just go out now, the doors open after 5 years. And that was like a huge kind of feeling, and I used to say it's as if like a wall. If you were standing next to this wall of the prison, and you move gradually from a point to another, from like in your way, you continue in your freedom way. So this wall starts to be smaller and to diminish over time. Like the more you go, the more you see the whole wall as a spot. But if you're just like very close to it, you see a little part of it. It's a physical kind of relation when you see. So I was going out of prison, full of the prison. So I was carrying with it on my shoulder somehow. So I was telling everybody about what's happening in prison and what is happening in prison. Prison has different relation. Like I have a relation to my radio that I smuggled to have, like a very normal radio. It's like a very exaggerated one. This is not valid outside. Outside there is a huge other forms of technology that I can easily go to the shop and get. So the transition was hard, and it's a painful adaptation. But over time, I was aware of the prison narrative. So telling the experience to others helped me, but also I stopped at some point to tell it, because telling it was also kind of like maintaining the experience with me. What I really was keen, and I'm still keen of doing, is understanding the experience, not grieving and not weeping about the years that I lost, or getting sympathy from others. While it's also valid, but I am more interested in understanding the experience, and I think by also having great friends and family and people around me, that really helped me.
To je výborná otázka, díky mnohokrát za ní. Odchod z vězení není naráz, je to postupný proces. Samozřejmě v den, kdy jsem byl propuštěn, tak to bylo nesmírně intenzivní pocit, obrovské štěstí, které mě bylo plné, vlastně přetékalo významem, a já jsem o tom okamžiku dlouho snil, a ve chvíli, kdy nastal, tak to samozřejmě bylo krásné a byl jsem z toho šťastný, ale to rozhodně neznamená, že tím to skončilo. Já o tom uvažuji tak, abych použil obraz, že vězení jako zeď, a ve chvíli, kdy jste propuštění, tak u té zdi stojíte, ale a postupně, jak kráčíte do všedního života, tak ta zeď se za vámi ztrácí v dálce. Ale zároveň, když jste blízko, tak z té zdi vidíte jenom její část, nevidí to postupně. Takže jak postupně se vzdalujete, tak vy vidíte ten celek. Co jsem tedy dělal? Já jsem všem o tom vyprávěl. A měl jsem to štěstí, že mám výborné kamarády a rodinu, se kterými jsem se o tom mohl bavit, mohl o tom promluvit a to je samozřejmě i to, že najednou je úplně jiný způsob komunikace. Když jsem potřeboval něco říct své rodině nebo kamarádům ve vězení, tak jsem složitým způsobem musel pašovat ty novinky ven. Teď díky technologiím na svobodě je to mnohem snazší. A chtěl jsem se dostal jsem se i do bodu, že jsem o tom přestal i svým kamarádům a jiným říkat. Ne protože bych to chtěl nějak umlčet, ale byl to způsob, jak se i s tím vyrovnávat. Tedy já nechci vůbec nad tím nějak hořekovat nad ztracenými časy nebo být nad tím smutný, ale chci té zkušenosti porozumět. Nechci vyvolávat soucit u jiných. A naopak prostě se zařadit takto do společnosti a jak jsem mu říkal, mám výborné přátele, výborné kamarády, a jsem na to velice hrdý, že máme možnost toto s nimi sdílet. Takže asi takto. I think that our time is up now. And we don't have any more time because there will be a reading in a few minutes' time of another Czech author. So I would like to thank you very much, Mohsen. Už teď nemáme čas na další otázky, protože za 15 minut bude další čtení. Tedy Mohsene, mnohokrát vám děkujeme za vaše čtení a za vaši účast. And thank you very much for being with us, at least in this digital provisional way. But compared to life spent in prison, hopefully this is a minor sufferance. Tedy ale ve srovnání s 5 lety ve vězení doufejme, že toto je nepatrná komplikace. Tedy thank you very much for being with us. Díky mnohokrát, že jste tady s námi a prosím, abychom se rozloučili s panem Mohsenem Mohamedem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you everybody. Thank you very much. And one day I will come to take the public very soon. I will enjoy my time in it anyway. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.